116 and 316. If you haven't already guessed it, I'm going to be your instructor this semester. My name is Josh Malin, and my background, well, I was a video production student here at Boise State University not too long ago. I'm currently in a master's program in instructional technology, which is basically building lessons for people in the workplace. And it's kind of fun. It's a chance to use some of my video background in a different way. I currently make training videos for the Department of the Interior's Office of Aviation Services, so I still get to do this on a regular basis, and this is now my third semester teaching the course. Real quick, I'd like to recognize we got Derek Self directing for us today. He was a student last semester, and Alex Muir is helping out with floor direction. Also, Chris, who was not in my class last semester, but a couple semesters ago, took the class from me. He's helping out on camera today. So we're going to real quick just kind of go over what this place is all about, why it's a service learning course, and then we're going to get into your syllabus and some of my expectations of you during the course. For those of you who have had me in the past, you may have noticed the big change that we are no longer Treasure Valley Community Television, TVC-TV. It is now Idaho Open Media. As Bob mentioned, that's a sort of paradigm shift in the way they're viewing how this station's going to work. And it's, at least as an organization, going to be less emphasized in creating live TV in the studio and more about creating community-based programming in general. What does all of that mean? What does public access mean? What does community programming? What do I mean by that? Some years ago, and it was actually during the Reagan years that this took effect, our country decided that if television was going to be a means of communication that was regularly used, it had to be open for everyone. It had to be something that anybody could access and get their message out there. And that was sort of the birth of public access. It used to work that cable companies who would have a franchising agreement, for example, Cable One in the area, would have to take a certain amount of their service fees and donate that to the upkeep of a public access station. That is no longer so much the case. The idea of public access as such, as a TV station where people go, is not as popular as it once was. There's a few social reasons for that. First and foremost, while not everyone can access a TV channel or get their message out there via TV, it is pretty easy to do it on the internet these days. And most people seem to prefer to do it that way because the tools that you use are much simpler, and it's pretty easy to figure out, and the infrastructure is very good. We will be doing that this semester. I believe that streaming content, online content, is actually a part of what you need to know as students in a class about community media. So we're going to go into that a little bit. There's good and bad that comes out of that. The downside, when you talk about a community on the internet, it tends to be more of a global community or a community of interests. So we have pockets of people who all kind of agree on the same thing. Interacting with each other, making videos, making content, commenting on things. They can get pretty rowdy. It's easy to disagree. There's a degree of anonymity on the internet that allows people to be less than cordial, I guess would be the best way to put that. And there's something lost when you aren't interacting that way on a local community. And that's one of the nice things that you have with a community access center is, yes, we're going to be producing content that's going to go on the web, but just by virtue of being here as a class together or working together, I'm pretty sure all of us have different backgrounds. I'm pretty sure all of us are going to have a different perspective on how things work, and we're sort of forced to interact and get that message out there together, and to help people who we may not always agree with get their message out. In the past, this station has been about helping members of the community do that. get their message out. And it was people that we disagree with, people that we didn't always like what they had to say, but that was part of our service and part of our service learning. Our mission has changed somewhat this semester. I was informed 2 nights ago. So there may be some changes to our calendar that we don't really have any community producers currently scheduled. So what that means is we can schedule them, we can try and find people, but we don't have anybody on our plate, really. So as Bob mentioned, we're going to be driven by creating our own content. And most of what we're going to be doing for the community is trying to produce something that's really relevant to Boise, that Boiseans want to watch, that is a service to our community. And we want to have that in mind with our projects as we go along in the semester. So if nobody minds, I think I'll jump right into our course objectives along those lines. This is aside from being a service learning course, it's a live studio course. And since this is one of the few classes at Boise State where you actually get to do this, I want to emphasize creating live content in here. There's a huge value in having the skills, even if you don't plan on doing anything television related in your life. There's a huge value in understanding the synergy of how a studio works. And believe it or not, the social aspects of that, the communication, the planning, the rehearsal, the getting a show together, the getting guests here on time, is much more difficult than any of the technical aspects of it. Particularly here where we have a lot of hardworking people who have gone out of their way to make sure that this place is a pretty tight ship that's running properly, most of the time. And I want to emphasize that. I want to give you guys a chance to do that because live TV, even though public access isn't as relevant as it once was, live television is absolutely relevant today. And in fact, in some ways is more relevant than a lot of other content that's sort of moved online. We're going to create pre-taped media as well. You guys are going to be shooting in the field, as it were. And you're going to need to have access to a camera. So along those lines, if you're concerned about that, if you have one of these, which is a poor man's smartphone, you have a video camera. And it's going to be as functional as you need it to be for the class that we're doing. If you don't have this, you can access, or if you're a photographer and you have a DSLR, those are fantastic video cameras. Come on in. Find a place to sit or stand. If you absolutely can't get one of these on your own, I know that the ILC has audiovisual equipment that you can check out. I think the Zone is where you can get that. So there are places where you can access it. And I'm not expecting you guys to get really fancy equipment for what we're going to be doing here. And in fact, anymore, the quality of what you can get out of a rather simple device is, or small device rather, not simple, is pretty spectacular. You guys are going to need to be able to edit as well. And once I get to that section of things, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But you will have access, I've been promised, to editing equipment here at the station every day of the week from 1 to 5. It's one editing bay, so there will be some first come, first serve in that. But everybody will be able to come and use editing equipment during that time period. If you're struggling to make that time period, I will be available Wednesdays and Thursdays if you let me know on Monday that you need me to be here. I can make that commitment. Monday and Tuesday are kind of my study days, and so I can't really commit there. And then Friday and Saturday, I have a life. So there's a certain amount of life that I want to keep free. So Wednesdays and Thursdays, I can come after 5 and pick up the slack there if people just can't do it. But again, you need to let me know by Monday so that I can plan that into my week and I don't schedule other things. You guys are going to need to gain a concept of community media and public access media and why it matters or doesn't matter, you know, according to your opinion, what you think of it, how you think it works, and how you think video is relevant to the community. And so the projects you're going to be doing are going to be about that, either for or against or somehow connected to Boise as a community, as a group of people. Questions later. We're going to go for about 25 minutes here, and hold on to your questions after that. Ask me anything you want. Yes, other than that, I have in there give examples between commercial and community media. That's less important to me now, but because I don't think we're going to live in a world very much longer where those lines are very distinguishable. So now it's something like YouTube. I have commercials whether I want it or not on some of my videos. So it's, for better or worse, the lines are getting blurred that way, and there's some positives about how this is working out, and there's some negatives. It is worthwhile thinking about the positive and negatives of how that all works. A few class rules and expectations. I expect you to be here. I don't take traditional attendance, but you may have noticed we have kind of a sign-in sheet when we get here. That is part of a participation in class grade that I'll be explaining here in a moment. The gist of it is, I want people here, I want people working, I want people on cameras, I want people on something. If you're not doing that, shooting B-roll for an upcoming shoot that we're going to be doing. If you don't know what B-roll is, we'll get into that. Doing something every day, active, and I shouldn't have to motivate you to do that. You should be asking what you can do to help out, and trying to find a way that you can be involved in the studio. We have a lot of you this semester, and so that's awesome. That means you are going to have to be kind of proactive, however. And if you're somebody who has done this before, taken the class before, recognize that part of what we're trying to learn here is how to teach as well, and how to, I mean, as community media producers, part of our job is to help other people know how to produce media. So helping means getting off the equipment sometimes and letting somebody else kind of grab the reins, and if they have questions, kind of helping them along. So I have that expectation as well. And I will be doing that as much as possible. Today I kind of set everything up. That's not going to be how it normally goes. You guys are going to come, you guys are going to set everything up, you guys are going to put the studio how best it suits our shoot for the day, whatever we decide to do that way. And ideally, if I'm doing my job right, I will be doing almost nothing. And so my ideal class is by the end of the semester, you guys are kind of taking the reins, and if you have questions for me, fire away, or if something's going wrong, fire away. But other than that, I'm sort of executive producing. So that's the goal here. Syllabus, real quick. I didn't print one out for you. That's something you're going to need to do for yourselves. Our Blackboard site is up. There's not much on there right now, but there is a syllabus. I also emailed it to all of you. It matters for a few reasons. One, you've got an outside hour sheet. This is super important. The outside hour sheet is how you're going to keep track of all of the stuff you're doing to fulfill your outside hour time. It is not my responsibility to keep track of that for you. It is not my responsibility to reprint it for you or get you a new one if you lose it. It is not my responsibility to figure out what your hours were on the previous sheet that you lost. One of you is going to lose it this semester. I'm almost certain of that. I'm hoping you prove me wrong. But if you're the type of person who occasionally misplaces things, and I'm that type of person, it might be in your best interest to have a backup of this or some other thing that you're doing to make sure that you're keeping track of your hours. Because I have no idea what you've done if you're not keeping track of that. Your syllabus also on the back here has a few tools. We have an example of a show outline, which all of the 316 students at least are going to need to be able to do that. And I've also got a mark list, also called a cue sheet by some people. I prefer mark list because with some of the terminology, cue gets a little confusing for people. This is kind of a nice thing to have if you're doing a shoot where a lot of actions need to happen all at the same time. Not going to get into that much today, but when we talk about directing, you'll understand what I mean. Assignments. Your big assignments are all based on stuff that we do in here. I'll start with weekly watch assignments though, because that's coming up for you. You're going to watch TV every week, just about every week. There are probably going to be 2, maybe 3 semesters that I give you a break, but you'll be watching something. And usually they're short, 3-4 minutes, 5-10 minute videos, parts of a live show, instructional content. We may do some Ira Glass, how to tell a story. How that works is you basically watch it via YouTube or some other streaming source. I'll provide the link in your discussion board. I'm going to ask you some questions about it. Those are going to go up Monday morning, technically Sunday night, but Monday morning early. For most of you, you're going to need to answer your first post by Wednesday every week. And I'm going to be a stickler on that this semester. No, you will not be able to make up your posts. I tried that before, it didn't work. So now you just get it or you don't, and we move on. You're going to need to post a response to that. Let me look here. I believe it's by Saturday. Even I forget what's in my syllabus sometimes. Yes, Saturday by 11 p.m. You're going to need to post a response to somebody else's question. And I'll be on there too periodically just to see how the discussion's going, what you guys are talking about, if I have any suggestions for things you might have missed. I do hope that you post more than that. You can get in there, get in a lively discussion about how TV is made, how TV influences us, how you can use TV to influence someone else. Yes, this is a medium of influencing people. And we need to know how it does it to us, and we need to know how we can do it to other people. We're going to have a large portion of our grade from what's called participation points, class participation points. The big difference on that from what I've done in the past is what you do in the class is going to determine how many points you get for the day. So first, showing up on time gets you a point. Leaving on time gets you a point. Leaving and arriving on time gets you a point, sorry. Being here gets you a point. And then the other points you get are going to be based on what you did. So if you operate a camera, you get 3 points. All of you today, for being students, are going to get 3 points. Yay, if you showed up on time, and I think you all did, pretty much. We were pretty close. Derek is going to get 5 points today, because he's directing. And so some jobs are harder than others in the studio, and it's not fair, but it is how it is. And so someone who is apt at directing or chooses to direct a lot and takes on the stress of directing gets more points for the day. Pretty much that's going to be on a first come, first served basis. The one caveat there, the 316 students are going to be producing shows. And so for that, they're going to have some leeway in choosing who they want to direct. We'll talk more about that later. For time reasons, we'll jump to outside hours. 40 to 50 points outside hours, depending on if you're 116 or 316. You get 1 point per hour. What that is basically you're providing content for the station. You could produce a blog advertising, Idaho Open Media. You could shoot B-roll. You could create some additional YouTube videos. You could research for an upcoming show. You could write a script. You can do a lot of things. There's a lot of ways that you can fulfill this. The big thing is 1 hour, 1 point. And yes, you can go over that amount of time. And yes, if you do go over, that will count towards other things. So it's in your best interest to get those done early. And if you do get them done before halfway, if you're halfway there, before the semester's half over, I do award an additional 5 points. So something to keep in mind. Live television pitch, 316 students. This semester we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be doing one show as opposed to everybody doing their own show. So the 316 students, and 116 can do this as well if you want to. If you want to, talk to me a little bit later. You're going to pitch me a show. I'm going to go through all of the 316 pitches. I'm going to pick the best 3, or at least the 3 that I think are the best. Then the rest of us are going to vote on those 3, and that's going to be the show that we create as a class for the rest of the semester. Awesome. Along those lines, 316 producers, each of you is going to be responsible for being the producer of that show for an episode. The producer's job is to make sure that a show happens. So you don't necessarily have to do everything for the show, but you are responsible for making sure that the everything of the show happens. And so if something doesn't go smoothly, if it doesn't work out all how it should, you're going to be held responsible for that. And there's more in the syllabus. There are finer points to read. You're going to be doing 2 community outreach YouTube videos. Those are going to be strictly edited and produced outside of class. Basically what I want there is something to do with the community. So there's a lot of ways, and I mentioned a couple ideas of things that I think about when I think about Boise as a community. You don't have to stick to those. There's a lot of ways you could go about this. I don't want to limit your imagination, but basically if you have a question about does this reflect the community, ask me. Before you get too deeply involved in that. But you're going to need to produce 2 of those, and I believe they're due October 5th and October 26th. What you're going to do is send me a link. So you'll send me the link to show that you have posted that online so that I can see the content. If you don't know how to do that, you need to talk to me. And then finally, we have a final essay. This will either be a video essay or a written essay. You can do either one. They're going to be done outside of class, produced outside of class. I'll get into the nitty-gritty of what we're specifically going to be doing with that, but that's the gist of it is usually about 3 to 5 page paper and the equivalent in video. And it's going to be something to do with the questions I've got listed in there. All right. Real quick, I'll just end on this note. I grade strictly on the amount of points you get and the percentage of those that you get. So if you get 90% of the possible points, you get, I guess 93 would be an A. And that's the highest grade you can get in my course. So if you do all the work, if you put in the time, everybody can get an A in this course. And I hope that you all do. I'm happy to have you all in the class this semester. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to take a quick break right now, and then we're going to come back in here and get to know each other a little bit better. And during this 10 minutes, if you have any questions for me regarding the syllabus that we didn't get to cover, we'll go ahead and ask them. Thank you very much.